We'll be going over custom sources and custom destinations so that you can create your own sources and destinations when using IoT connectors. Before we begin, it is important to understand the Sorba standard format. This here is the Sorba standard format. It is a JSON format that is used within Sorba. Now, the reason why this is important is that when you create a custom source, you will need to transform your data into this Sorba standard format. And when you're working with custom destinations, you will need to understand that the data from Sorba is coming in this Sorba standard format. However, it can be modified into whatever format you'd want to send it out in. The Sorba standard format is made up of timestamps and a tree that has asset, group, and tag within it, with as many tags as you want to include, and the associated values at each of the timestamps included in that Sorba standard pack. Now, for a custom source or custom destination script, you're going to want to create a module script that will load on start. Again, you'll want to do this as a module script, not as an on-start script. Now, for this particular one, we have multiple imports, but do note that this import here from data handler, import handler base will be necessary for any custom source or custom destination script that you want to make. Also here, I would like to point out the expand tree and reduce tree functions. These are built into Sorba, and these will help you work with the Sorba standard format. So while they are not necessary, they are very useful tools for making the Sorba standard format easier to work with. What these do is they can pull the values out of the Sorba standard pack, and they can bring the values back into the Sorba standard pack. For this example, we'll be making a custom MQTT handler. Now, within our definition here, we will first put the name of the handler. This was what will show up within our UI. And then we will complete the configuration for the UI. We'll put in the name for the connector. You can put in a description. And then for the configuration, it will be divided into two sections, source and destination. You can only do the configuration for one of these, but note that if you only do one of these, source or destination, it will show up either in the source or the destination section of the IoT connector, but not both. If you wanted to appear in both, you will need to do the configuration for both the source and the destination. Now, within the configuration for source and destination, the two types of formatting you'll want to do are connection and trigger types. Connection will include all of the information that you need to connect to that source or to connect to that destination. For this example, that will include our host, which will be our server address. You can, of course, include in here the name for it, a description, whether it is required or optional. You should put in a type for it, and it is often good to put in a default value for each of these configurations. We will also put in our port for this one and our topic to connect to an MQTT source. Trigger types will include other parameters that will define how you read and write data. In this example, we'll be adding the trigger type of keep alive for MQTT, which represents the number of seconds to keep the connection active if there is no packet coming in. For our destination, we will again have all of our connection information and our trigger types. This one we also just added in a dummy other parameter. This one just adding in an example of how you would add a selector into your configuration. For this one, you can see that we have option 1 and option 2 with different values associated with each one. So this is just if you want a quick example of how to add in a selection option where there are different choices that a user can select from when working with your custom source or custom destination. Once we have our configuration set, we can go ahead and define a constructor to read the configuration parameters from the UI. For this, we'll be using the handler base that we imported, and we will go ahead and we will assign variables for all of our different UI parameters. To jump forward for a brief moment, once we actually do this configuration, we will be referencing our receive and send functions, receive on the source side in order to receive data, and the send in order to send data on the destination side. Now, when we're actually reading data from this, we are creating an array of values in which we are using our reduce tree function to pull out values from our Sorba standard pack and then add those values into that array of it, and then add the values from the Sorba standard pack into our array of values. One thing to note here, this particular setup within this module script is assuming that we are using the Sorbus Standard Pack as our destination format. Now, of course, you do not actually need to use the Sorbus Standard Pack as your destination format. What this means is that this will just be sending out our Sorba package, but you can, of course, add in additional configuration to this definition if you want to, say, send a different format other than the Sorba standard when you are sending out information when you're creating a custom destination. Now, once we have this configuration completely done, our custom MQT handler will show up in our IoT connectors on both source and destination when we are trying to make an IoT connector. This can, of course, be used for all sorts of applications, but it's primarily useful for if you want to connect or send information to something that we do not already have within our IoT connectors, or something that is a little bit more proprietary, where you may have a specific configuration for that communication protocol.